Welcome. My name is Anne LeBlanc, and I am the Education Coordinator for WasteCheck. Today I have the pleasure of presenting the Peels to Petals Introduction to Soil Health and Composting presentation. We will look at the very basics of soil health, different types of composting, and the basics of how you can compost at home. So let's talk about compost. What is compost? Compost is a soil amendment. A soil amendment are elements which we add to the soil, such as natural fertilizers, peat moss, manure, chemical fertilizers, and compost, of course, to improve its capacity to support plant life. Compost enhances the ground in which you plant by adding nutrients to the soil, improving the soil texture, and improving the drainage of the soil. So now that we've determined that compost is a soil amendment that contributes to soil health, understanding soil health starts with the realization that soil is alive, not in the sense that a person is alive, but in the sense that the soil is a vibrant community and ecosystem. When we are speaking of healthy soil, we are not talking about the physical particles of clay, silt, or sand. What we're talking about is the health of a community of organisms living in the physical environment that we call soil. A single handful of healthy soil will contain thousands of species of organisms and millions of individual organisms. The soil food web is a term used to describe the various life forms in the soil and the relationship between them. The food web illustrates the ecosystem we require for healthy soil. Plants are the original energy producers, and the creatures below the ground are fed by that energy, beginning with the bacteria and fungi at the lowest level and continuing up to the insects and worms at the top of the underground world. Soil aggregation, which is the basis of a healthy soil structure, is the process by which soil organic matter supports soil life. Soil life creates aggregates. Soil becomes clumped because of soil life such as bacteria, roots, fungi, minerals, and plant debris coated with clay. This aggregate forming process within soils is enhanced as organic matter is increased. This is because soil organic matter supports soil life, with soil life creating aggregates. So why is soil aggregate formation and soil structure so important? One of the main reasons is water management. Soil is the filter through which much of our rainwater passes on the way back to the ocean. The soil slows the progress of the water, holds it, and cleans it. Compacted, poorly aggregated soil, like the picture on the left, cannot accept or hold much water, so plant life is extremely limited and unproductive. If the soil has a good structure and is well aggregated like the picture on the right, it lets the rainwater infiltrate easily, absorbs it like a sponge, allowing plants of all kinds to access water as it is needed. For natural ecosystems, water is the essence of life, and soil is the undeniable manager of that essence. So the question is, how do we attain this desired soil structure? We attain that soil structure by adding an amendment to our soil, and of course, the soil amendment that we are looking at today is compost. What is composting? So, composting is the natural process where organic materials are broken down and recycled into fresh, nutrient-rich soil amendment. There are many benefits to composting. Let's take a look at a few. Of course, it improves soil health. At the soil level, it increases garden growth, reduces the use of pesticides and fertilizers. It improves the health of and structure of the soil, which in turn improves soil water retention. At the global level, it reduces waste, creates environmental responsibility, and reduces greenhouse gas emissions. At the community level, it improves sanitation and health in communities, eliminates garbage odors, and creates jobs. There are many downfalls to not composting. First and foremost, it is a waste of a valuable resource. It creates garbage odors. It attracts animals and produces methane gas as it breaks down. Let's take a look at some of the basic methods of composting. We have municipal composting. This is the compost made from the waste picked up in your green cart. We have backyard composting, which you can do at home. And we have vermicomposting, which is using worms to create compost. Let's start with taking a look at municipal composting. This is the food waste, yard waste, and other organic waste that you place in your green cart for curbside collection. In Nova Scotia, we have municipal composting programs through which green carts are provided to the resident by the municipality. There is no cost to the resident for this green cart. Currently, 98% of Nova Scotians have curbside organic collection. In Region 7, which is Yarmouth-Digby counties, municipalities of Argyll, Yarmouth, and Clare and Digby, towns of Digby and Yarmouth, we have 100% curbside collection of organics. All organics which are collected curbside in Yarmouth and Digby counties are brought to the compost facility at the Solid Waste Park in Yarmouth. Here, the organic material is sifted through and unwanted materials and debris are removed. The compost then goes through a curing process. Once the compost is cured and matured, residents can purchase this finished product. Let's take a look at the next method, which is gaining popularity, and that is backyard composting. Backyard composting is rather simple. What a compost pile needs is a good environment, water, oxygen, and the right pH, space to move, right portion sizes, good nutrition in the form of carbons, energy, and nitrogen or proteins, and microbes. So how do you start a backyard compost pile? It's really simple. Choose your composter, pick a location, build your pile, add material to your pile, and maintain your pile. A compost pile needs nutrients, and it gets this from carbons and nitrogens. Your nitrogens are your green, wet, and soft materials, and those items such as food waste, grass clippings, animal manures, seaweed, coffee grounds. Your carbons are brown, dry, and woody materials, and those are items such as shredded paper, leaves, newsprint, old hay, wood shavings, straw, wood chips, ashes. There are some items you should not be adding to your home compost pile. These are items such as meats, fish and shellfish, bones, fat, grease, oils, all dairy products, dog and cat waste, diseased plants or weeds that have gone to seed, large branches or roots. These items can cause issues in your backyard composter, such as unwanted odors, flies, and attracting animals. Let's explore these common issues that can easily be avoided or remedied. Your home compost pile should be odorless. If you have odors coming from your compost pile, check first that you haven't added meat, fish, fats, or dairy products to your pile. And if you had, you should remove them. Odors can also happen if you haven't added enough carbon, so if you haven't added enough dry brown materials to your pile. Add carbon materials to the pile to cover it. Turn the pile and check the moisture levels. A lot of flies. Flies are attracted to nitrogen such as fruit and vegetable scraps. So you want to cover your pile with carbon such as wood chips, leaves, shredded paper, and turn the pile. You can then readjust the carbon to nitrogen ratio. Are you finding that your compost pile is attracting unwanted animals? First, look for anything that may be attracting them, such as meats or fats in the compost pile, and remove it. Then check for other odors that may be attracting them. Add carbon such as leaves, shredded paper, etc. and adjust the carbon to nitrogen ratio. The last method of composting that we're going to look at is vermicomposting, or using worms to make compost. Vermicomposting is composting with worms, not just any worms, but red wigglers. These worms eat scraps such as fruit and vegetable peelings, and they break it down into nutrient-rich compost called castings. Red wigglers are interesting worms. They actually eat their body weight in food every day. They don't have eyes, but they can sense the light. One worm can produce 99 hatchlings in just 11 weeks. And red wiggler worms can live up to 5 years. So how do we keep red wiggler worms for composting? It's quite simple. Let's take a look at the basics. You will need a container with holes to let air in. bedding materials such as shredded newspaper or any shredded paper, handful of soil or eggshells, water to moisten it, scraps for worm food, and of course, half a pound to a pound of worms. Let's take a look at what you should be feeding your worms. There are many food items that worms absolutely love. Apple cores, eggshells, shredded paper, tortilla chips, coffee grinds, tea leaves. Take off the tea bag first though. Melons, lettuce, carrot peelings. Basically, a worm will eat any food scraps with the exception of bones, onions, spicy peppers, meat, dairy, or oily and fried foods. Red wigglers are very easy to care for. Here are a few tips for keeping your worms happy and your colony thriving. Feed them once a week, 1 to 2 cups of food. Large amounts of food less often equals fatter worms. Smaller amounts of food more often equals faster reproduction. Keep your worms in a temperature range of 10 to 25 degrees Celsius. Change or add bedding every 4 to 6 weeks. Harvest castings twice a year or every 6 months. Often the worms may find themselves sharing the space in the bin with springtails or fruit flies. We want to see springtails in the worm bin as they are a sign of a healthy environment. They help to break down the organic matter in the bin. Fruit flies, on the other hand, will appear and lay their eggs if the food is not buried properly and can become a nuisance. In conclusion, composting has an impact on the health of our soil, globally reducing waste and greenhouse gas emissions, improving health and sanitation in our communities. There are many reasons to choose to compost, whether it be with curbside organics collection, backyard composting, or even having a vermicomposting bin. Thank you, and we hope that you enjoyed the Peels to Petals presentation.